Good evening. Welcome to the March edition of Fireside Chat from the Sustainability and Entrepreneurship Center of Sassin School of Management. Really happy to see you all here today. I hope you're excited to get a bunch of new inputs, to receive a bunch of new inputs about the climate situation for today's discussion based on climate action, justice, and humanity. A little bit different format from usual in that we've got several experts here, and each will be presenting a different picture, a different piece of the picture for us. And we'll do it one after another. Instead of having a question and answer period, what we'll do is each one will answer a broad question about their area of expertise. Kicking off, the first of the four speakers is Assistant Professor Suthirat from Environmental Research Institute of Chulalongkorn University. And she's also the Director of Environment Development and Sustainability at Chulalongkorn University. Many of our friends come from this particular part of the school, and she's going to talk to us about the link between climate change and the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Please welcome Attache Suthirat.
Okay, Alex, thank you for your kind introduction, and nice to meet you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Assistant Professor Suthirat Kittiponvises. Today, it is my pleasure to be here to join us in our Fireside Chat. And today, I would like to talk about the interlinkage between the topic of climate change and also the global SDGs. So I would like to start up with some kinds of the most updated report of IPCC AR6. And this report, the key point is that you can see in the blue box, they mentioned that even our global society could maintain just about 1.5 degrees Celsius of the additional warming, there will be an increasing the occurrence of the extreme event unprecedented in the historical record. Maybe I will give you more information on that. So here, for 1.5 degrees Celsius of the global warming, there will be increasing the heat wave, longer warm season, and shorter cold season. This is just 1.5. But when we talk about 2 degrees Celsius of the additional global warming, this report said that the extreme heat would more often reach the critical threshold for the farming activities and also for the human health. This is some kinds of the evidence. Apart from the IPCC report, I got information from the German Watch. They also study about the global climate risk index during the last 20 years back. And based on this information, I may ask you really basically simple question that what do you think about the Thailand position in this global profile? And here, this is the answer. You can see in the table here, we can say that the Kingdom of Thailand has been ranked 9 of the country that are most affected by the extreme climate event. And based on this information, I can say that this is time for action, for preparing ourselves, for take some kinds of urgent action to deal with all kinds of the change at the global society, especially for the extreme weather event. Yeah, this is some kinds of the facts of this situation. And I got this one from the WWF. You can see very mutual relationships between climate change, for sure, with the people, and for sure, you can see the interaction between the nature and the people. These kinds of 3 basic components of the climate change, people and nature, is interlinkage, is some kinds of unavoidable. Yeah, this is some kinds of the situation of climate change. And yeah, for sure, the topic of my talk today is about the interlinkage between climate change and 17 SDG goals. We can say that there are too many goals that somehow link with goal number 13. And once again, goal number 13, we have to think about the urgent action. Probably just the action may not be enough to deal with all kinds of threats to the climate system. And not just only 17 goals of the SDGs, we also have to think about 5 P's of the sustainability, including for sure people, including the planet, including the partnerships, including peace, and also the prosperity. This is the concept of the sustainability. For the next few minutes, I would love to give you some classic example of the interlinkage of SDG. For sure, the first is about people and prosperity. Yeah, once we talk about the first SDG and also goal number 10, the IPCC AR5, they also conclude with very high confidence that the change in the climate or the climate of the impact of climate change worsened the existing poverty, inequality of the global population. And as our topic of our webinar today, these kinds of change also affect with the climate insecurity in too many areas of the world. Yeah, this is the first dimension of climate change and people. And once we talk about the impact to the economic dimension, the study here, I got it from the International Disaster Database. So they try to gather or record or information of the disaster over the world. You can see that in some year, the total economic loss was more than 350 billion USD a year. And once we see about the type of the disaster, you can see that the earthquake and also the flooding were considered as the most expensive disaster at the global scale. Yeah, this is some example of the impact of climate change to the economic dimension. Apart from that, once we talk about the global scale like climate change, we also have to think about the impact of climate change to the people and to the planet as well. This is some kinds of the idea. I really like this way of thinking. I got from the Clean Water Action Organization. They say that climate change is equal water change. Yeah, once we talk about planet, we also have to think about the interlinkage of climate change. Once again, goal number 13, and the impact to the water cycle, the impact to the coastal areas, the impact to the sea level rise, even change in the ocean. Here, maybe I use the term of the ocean warming as the impact of the climate change. And even for the cities, for our communities, for our families, and even for individual levels, this is the impact to the people and also the planet. This is some kinds of example. Maybe some year news, maybe issued by the Bangkok Post. They also mentioned that watch out Bangkok, sea level rise likely to be faster, higher than the expected one. And maybe at the right-hand side of your screen, you also can see the dark blue area. This is the situation of the seawater intrusion from the Gulf of Thailand. And you can see the right blue color, you can see the situation of the seawater intrusion. This kind of situation is affecting with the quality of the water supply production system and will be somehow affect with our social and also our human body. This is the impact of climate change to our quality of life. And last but not least, I will give you some idea of the impact on the biodiversity. Yeah, I mentioned already about the impact to the people, impact to the economic dimension, impact to the life on land. And the last one is the classic example of life below water. Let's say climate change, for sure, probably affect with the coral reef, with the polar seas and fisheries activities. These kinds of the impact of life below water can somehow link with the consequences to the like ecological damage, economic loss, and even our human well-being, particularly for the food insecurity This is really common problem in our global society right now. And yeah, as today, I am here as the first speaker to give you an overall of the introduction. So I use this information as introduction and conclusion of my talk today. So I like this way. This is some kinds of the good information. Once again, I got from APCC. They mentioned about the climate resilient development pathways that combine together mitigation and adaptation. You can see in the figure here, I think right now we are at the letter A. This is today's world. So once we talk about our today, and we have to think about our future, you have to take a look for B, C, and D. This is the pathway to our future. I will give you just two scenarios. The first is the worst case. You can see the gray line in the top of the figure. We can say that in case we do not think for the SDGs, we do not think for sustainable, we do not think for the target of greenhouse gases reduction. For sure, unfortunately, someday we have to deal with the additional warming of about 4 degrees Celsius in the future. We call that one as an unsustainable condition. But in opposite way, you see the green line at the bottom of the figure. We say this one, we call that one as the climate resilient scenario. Maybe in C and D, if you think about the possibility to dive sustainability for all, for everyone, if your government, if your society think about the initiative of the net zero emission, probably you will learn more about these kinds of the target from Kun Sittisak, the next speaker. If you can ensure these two way of thinking, sustainability and net zero greenhouse gases emission, we hope that our global society can somehow keep or maintain just 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius at the additional warming. And here we call that one as the climate resilient scenario. Yeah, that's it, my talk today, as I give you some idea which world you want to stay and which future scenario you want to go. Yeah, this is some kinds of the wrap up of my talk. Maybe in the next, this is key speaker. I am the one who gives some kinds of introduction. Maybe later on, we will learn more about the policies, the social safeguard, elderly and climate change from our keynote speaker. That's it from me right now, Alex. Thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ajaran Suthirat. What a great overview. And I must say, if that didn't scare everybody, then nothing will. Nicely said, nicely summarized, and a nice way to link the Sustainable Development Goals and the issues attending climate change. The next speaker, Dr. Sittisak, will also talk about linkage. His linkage is from the global actions necessary down to the local actions that will be taken. Please welcome Dr. Sittisak.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kun Alex, and good evening, all the audience today. Let I check with my screen. Okay, that's be better. So thank you again, Alex, and thank you, Sittisak Fireside Chat, to give me an opportunity to talk and share with my experience and expertise on the climate change. As actually my PhD dissertation is study on the climate subnational climate change mitigation action. So it's good to be here to talking and share my experience and my study on the climate action to all the participants. And if you have any questions, you can drop the questions too. As you are already heard from the Dr. Suthirat previously, so the climate change is very important and very critical issues that we are trying to solve. It's not only Thai people, but it's all the people around the world. It depends on what you are and where you live. So now we can see how the global discussions on the climate change look looking for and what happened in the global scale, and also I will drill down to the Thailand perspective as well. So firstly, before I step forward to Thailand, so I could give you the background of the political geographic on the climate change. Actually, the climate change has been discussing since 15 years ago, start at 1971, which the first year that the people are talking and discussing internationally about the climate change, and it's linked to very serious topic in 1988, which is the convention's scientific body was established, which called the Intergovernmental Panel on the Climate Change, or you can hear the IPCC, which stands for. That is a UN agency which really study on the scientific climate change, which to prove and give the evidence to show that climate is real until now. And after that, in 1992, the United Nations Framework Conventions on the Climate Change, or you may heard on the UNFCCC, was established. And then the first conference of the party was called, in short, is COP. First COP was in 1995 in Berlin, and actually we have the conference of the party every year. So many countries will be together to discuss about the climate change in several topics. And we had a big step. In slide, we show the big step of the climate change mitigation options or actions in 1997 in COP23 in Tokyo. So you might familiar with the Kyoto Protocol, which already finished and done now. So from 1997, we have exactly the climate change mitigation actions start, and then they develop under the under three mechanisms, including the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM. And then in 2015, which is a big step of the climate change negotiations as well. So we know them on the Paris Agreement. I think you're very familiar with it. It's very popular at the moment to discuss for. So the agreement provides a new course of in the effort to combat global climate change, requiring countries to make the commitment to reduce their own greenhouse gas emissions. So until last year, we have the last COP, we call it COP26 in Glasgow, United Kingdom, which is try to engage and lobby all the country members to make a more ambitious commitment to secure the global net zero by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees Celsius in English. And also we do talking about the adaptations to protect the communities and natures as well. Of course, the finance very important issue to develop the mitigation options and also adaptations activities, and all the country members are working together. How they're working together, we already discussed, but some issues still in the issue. So for Thailand, and in that at COP26, you may hear and from the news and some other communications that Thailand have three very ambitious, very surprised on their commitment that it has announced that it will level up it meets a long-term target on the greenhouse gas emissions. First one, they commit that to increase for 40% greenhouse gas reduction by by the 2030 if gaining support from the international community. And the second one, that Thailand will be in carbon neutrality by 2050 and will be the net zero emissions by 2065. This is very huge step from Thailand to commit to the global. And also, it's according to this target, Thailand need more actions and collaborations, not only government itself, but it should be a collaborations and align with the private sector policies and also the civil society and all stakeholders in the country. So it's very important to understand that climate change is not for only one government or only one people. So every stakeholder in the world has to be work together. So this kind of thing that I could show you the situations of the greenhouse gas emissions in Thailand. The updated, you can see here the updated of the National Communications Report. So show that the energy sector, including the transportation sector, also to has the highest share in the greenhouse gas emissions, around like 72%, followed by the agriculture sector, industrial sector, and waste sector. So you can see this figure that to show that COP21 and COP26 commitment for Thailand. So in the first step in COP21, we have the commitment to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions around 20%. And just last year in November, so the Prime Minister has been announced and commit that Thailand will make level up the emission reductions to 40% compared to the business as usual. And also, and you can see here this kind of like the roadmap for Thailand. You can see the transportation section is the key sector that we are looking for to reduce the greenhouse gas, and also the energy sector. So this is kind of the situation right now in terms of the mitigation action. So as the Dr. Suthirat said previously, Thailand is in rank number 9 that will get the impact on the climate change. So that's would be make Thailand in the spotlight in terms of the adaptation. So how's the climate action in terms of the private sector? I believe that the alumni, Sasin alumni, is mostly work in the private sector in company. So I will show you in the picture of the climate action in the company worldwide and also in Thailand. Actually, the UNFCCC has established an initiative we call the Race to Zero to include to recruit the company around the world, and also the city organizations, any kind of any kind of thing, to be a member of the Race to Zero, to help each other to reach the net zero emissions by 2050. So currently, I think we have 4 or 5 organizations from Thailand to be a member of the Race to Zero under the UNFCCC. And this can show you roughly to see the pictures what happened in the company around the world. There have some study for the Fortune Natural Capital Partner to show that there are 3 actions or 3 commitments that company around the world already pledged or already commit. The first, they commit their own on the carbon neutrality, which gonna be expected to achieve when the company completely offset of the greenhouse gas emissions. Very technical term, and if you want to know more, so we can discuss later on. And then some of the company they commit on their renewable energy 100%, or we call RE100. So the company will be achieve the electricity or energy they consume from the renewable energy mainly. So another approach that they are really committed called the science-based target. So it's quite complicated and need more technical skill to how to say, like, to create the number of the greenhouse gas emission reductions to align with below 2 degrees Celsius. But this kind of three approach that are already proposed to the company around the world. For the Thailand itself, we have the Global Compact Network Thailand, which is recruit all Thai company to together and help each other, provide your capacity building, provide your activity to help your organizations to get the target to net zero emissions by 2050 as well. So you can see that more the private sector in Thailand more active than the goal of the government, which try to be the net zero emission by 2055. So this kind of like example and actions movement in the private sector in Thailand. So if you are working in the private sector and you cannot see your company here, so you can contact to the Global Compact Network Thailand and enjoy their community to help the world to reach net zero emission by 2050. So this is all the picture that I would like to share. So if you have any questions, so please let me know. You go to the chat box. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kun Alex.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sittisak. I neglected to mention that Dr. Sittisak has a position at the British Embassy, very unique position of climate charge and energy attache. So he's a unique position, we hope, to implement policy to help both Thailand and other countries as well. Now moving on, we have Mr. Pichet, who is an environmental and social safeguards expert with World Wildlife Fund. Those of you who know the WWF know that it's quite a well-known and very well-studied and appreciated organization in the environmental realm. And he's going to talk to us a bit about climate safeguards and mitigation, risk mitigation. Please welcome Mr. Pichet.
Thank you very much, Alex, and good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank Sasin, to allow me to be part of this discussion this evening with the important topics, around climate justice and the way that Thailand, should go, in the near future. So as Alex mentioned, I'm working for World Wildlife Fund for Nature, WWF International. Allow me to introduce my organization a little bit more. We are an independent conservation organization working around 100 countries globally. And our main goal and our mission is, to remain nature resources and also, of course, implementing the sustainable conservation projects. So first of all, I think, how to bring this session, more exciting for all of you. So, and make it more relevant to all of us, particularly, Sasin alumni. As I know that, Sasin alumni, you are good at businesses, and a lot of Sasin alumni, you are CEO, you are business owners here and there, both in Thailand and in the region. So I bring these two photos, and I would like to ask you quickly, and no need to answer, just think and keep it in your mind. So do you see any environmental and social safeguards, in elements, in these two pictures? So on the left-hand side is the forest, right? And on the right-hand side is, the atmosphere, offices, in Bangkok. So the point I would like to make here is that, environmental and social safeguards should be embedded into our works, whatever, we are doing. I mean, conservation, businesses, banking, to ensure that our actions is do no harm, to environment and also to, people and communities. So safeguards help us, help WWF International and also other partner organizations to deliver better conservation outcomes. As WWF Thailand, we screen for risks, including human rights considerations as an initial step. Where risks are identified, and then we mitigate the risks by developing mitigation action and frameworks. And also, we learn from the process as well to implement the mitigation actions and also the environmental and social risk screening. So we try to put the environmental and social safeguard in every step of our project circle. Beginning at the designing of the project, defining implementation, monitoring and evaluation, and of course, learning and sharing. So I would like to go quickly. This slide, I just wanted to demonstrate you how the WWF serious about environmental and social safeguards. So these are the three main social policies that the WWF developed and commit to. It's about human rights, it's about gender, it's about right-based. So in June 2019, the WWF adopted the Environmental and Social Safeguard Framework, ESSF in short, to be applied across the network to make the WWF social environmental policy fully operational, and to provide an individual, staff and also the organization to have a mechanism to manage the social and environmental risks in the landscapes that we are working, as well as in the community. And the core components of the ESSF are the framework overview documents and 9 issue-specific safeguard standards that are listed on the slide. For example, the restriction of access, pest management, the environmental side, right? And we also have the cross-cutting standards, such as human rights, child safeguarding and protection of their rights, gender equality and women's rights. So that's the key skeleton of environmental and social safeguard framework in the WWF Thailand. So why we are doing all of this thing? Because we would like to ensure that our conservation is do no harm. So we identify and avoid, mitigate and minimize negative environmental and social impacts in every step that we can. And we do good. Safeguards also proactively increase the ability of the organization activities to deliver better outcomes for people and environment. So when you look at this element through the businessman lens, the business model from now on, should consider more about the environmental and social risks and safeguards as much as you can, because we cannot, run the business as usual that, somehow harm the environment, somehow, put the people and community, more exposure and vulnerability. So since we adopted and initiate the environmental and social safeguard frameworks at our organization, so far, we have, the experts to responsible and in charge of this initiative. And then we developed the framework, we consulted with our stakeholders, and also, we roll out the social and environmental safeguards into our conservation efforts, not only in a big landscape over the country, but also at the community level. We do see, we do develop the pool of experts on this in the network, because WWF is a global network, right? We are working in 100 countries, so we bring expertise from here and there together to form to develop further and strengthen the environmental and social safeguards in our conservation. So, and we are continuing to build capacities, making sure that we align, ourselves strategically, and in order to, across the network, right, and working our way across land and seascape to implement this initiative, Essf. So in the slide, you can see, we are building capacity with safeguards focal points, in Greater Mekong country offices. We are revising the safeguards, documents and social policies, following public consultation to submit, to our board. So this process, the support from management is very crucial. So we have to get their buy-in and, involved in every single process. And we are ensuring the safeguards are, hardwired into our core processes, ongoing works to clearly define, the inclusive conservation principle. Will have safeguards at its core. So if you're interested in this topic more, so please, feel free to visit our panda.org. You can find more information about safeguarding and also, conservation, in that website. So I would like to conclude my talk with that, environmental and social safeguard, is not something that you can ignore anymore. So even you are owner of businesses, who are running SME, working in the banks, or working for some national NGOs or UN agencies. So environmental and social safeguard should be embedded in every activities or in every projects that you are working on at the moment, to ensure that the community that we are working with, the clients that you are serving with, they are aware of the impacts of your activities. And once you embed it in all these environmental and social safeguard issues in your project or in your activities, that's the way to ensure that your company, your businesses, your organization, it's sustainable in terms of do no harm. You are considered about environmental impacts. I think that's the trend of business development, not only in Thailand, but across the country. So I end here. So I hand over back to Alex. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kupichet. Good message there for all of us, not just in the individual fields that we're in, but for the theme generally of preservation, is to embed our planning and embed our activities into everything that we do, not just on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but every day of the week, every month of the year. Thank you again very much. Now we'll move on to Chandit, who is an elderly and climate change literacy fan. He specializes in social economy and aging and sustainability, and he's going to enlighten us on these topics. Please welcome Chandit.
Thank you very much, Alex. And thank you, Sachin, for having me here today. And it's a good time for me to enlighten you about things that close to our, could say the living. So I would like to enlighten you in terms of research. And that's why we have to show up and enlighten in the elderly literacy and the climate change response. However, I would like to start up about the picture of the climate change impact that happened in Thailand, or not only in Thailand, but could be in the world. But the climate change is impact to almost every angle of our living lifestyle. It's caused by the change of the temperatures, maybe shorten in food, and maybe the quality of air, the quality of water, and almost every single thing. And the thing that's happened is the rainfall change and the heat that heating up every day, as you already know. And maybe next is catch up again about the climate change impact. the climate change impact is not only for one particular items or particular dimensions, but it goes to the list of the human health that is related to the heat-related death, or like the disaster that's coming up, and the cost of society. And we already know that it's happened to the economic section as well. So it's on damage of the property and the human health, like that is very costly. And for the agricultural, it's a consequence of developing country. If like those countries have the impact on the climate change, who mostly are the agriculturals, so that means the world has been food shortage. And also the leaks of the wildlife that change the contribution of the new disease. Maybe one COVID thing or another new disease could coming up beyond the climate change. And if we want to talk about the vulnerability of the climate change, I would like to picture you up on the elderly who has the most impact and most vulnerability to the impact of the climate change. Let me enlighten up you about like the aging society. And because we are already now in the 21st century, and the world population is getting old, and more of the older people living more than the younger people. And the trend of the aging population is like already spread out and very rapidly growth, especially in Thailand. And the Thailand is ranked as a third of the country who has like the high number of the elderly living in our communities. So a little caption on the aging population definitions. Sometimes we can see like the aging, like age, super aging is divided by the number of percent of the elderly who aging more than 65 in the communities. If it's got like this on the slide. We now on the age population in Thailand. Japan is on the super age population, and many countries in Europe is aging population. And soon or so far in the 5 year, most of the country, not only in Asia, the Europe going to be to age populations. And for the case of Thailand, the aging population in Thailand is quite strong. I mean, because like for the previous slide, the aging population in Thailand is ranked as the number 3rd. And parallel to the UN thing, the aging being concerned, UN has like many, I could say like the political or like the policy that related to the aging. And also Thailand is very parallel to the United Nations activity as well. How about the case of Bangkok? The Bangkok is the one of the cities that has impact of the climate change a lot. Probably if you familiar with the flooded or like the heated, you can see that it's like very frustrated. And today I would like to point out on the term of like the flooded in Bangkok. And the Thailand and Bangkok location is being severe in the term of like raining system. I mean, not raining system, I'm sorry. It's about the rainfall and about like monsoon countries and about like sea level rise that could be impact from the climate change, and even another factor that I'm gonna show you after. So this is a kind of like the map of like 50 districts of Bangkok. And if you're going to look closely about the factor that related to the cause of the flood in Bangkok, we use the GIS mapping to overlay. So we got the factor of the land use, the landfall, and the slope, sea level rise, land subsidence, load density, and then density, and the past flood events. So it came up like, if we looking at the picture of the Bangkok who were very impact to the flood. So the high leaks turned to be the 3 cities that located in the heart of the city, I mean the center of the city. And those cities have like the percent of the elderly at 21%. Basically, And looking at the medium leagues level, is also on the central part of Bangkok as well. See, this is telling us like that Bangkok is like really risky on the term of like flood and related to the elderly response. And you can see that this is a low leaks level of the Bangkok. It's Bang Khun Thien that with like very edge of the Bangkok, but more importantly, another important thing is like the Sampanchwong district. That is like the city that has it's a district that has a lot. It's the biggest number of the elderly. And if we're talking about like the elderly and the climate change that related to the SDG goal in many dimensions, it's about like the poverty, hungry, and gender equity for mostly, and the peace and justice, and about like the cooperation on the 17th goals. And if we're talking about the literacy by UNESCO is classified as identification, understanding, interpretation, creation, and communication. But if we look closely, it's turned to be elderly literacy in this point is about like the ability of the elderly who can use, access, communicate, and create. Let's say about the SWOT analysis of the elderly and the flood literacy. This is a good point of the elderly who has most of the elderly has experiences in the terms of like dealing with the situation or the disaster, but some, and they have like their folk wisdom, they have their own experience, they have like their own know-how to analyze or to dealing with the disaster or something happened by their own experience. But if we're talking about the weakness of the Bangkok national, like Bangkok, they have like the downstream in the case of like getting flood easily, and the aging situation in Thailand and in Bangkok is like very stronger every single day. And the weak point is like they have no, not really no, but it's like the low knowledge of disaster risk reduction, and they have the lack of access to get like the information or the opportunity from the new source of information, such as the online thing. And the opportunity that they have is about like what we I already give you a hint earlier that Thailand policy, they have things that related to United Nations, so they try to put the policy that related to the elderly and the climate change is more stronger, and they also have the several organizations as the WWF or like another safeguard that could be helped in the terms of like getting more opportunity for the elderly who can deal with the climate response. And always the threat is about more likely about the times and the things that related to the elderly, because they already have like a very low in function. But if and the opportunity to get the capacity to learn the new technology or the new thing, it take time. And the government work basically focus on like when we get the flood or when we got the situation of the disaster, the government part, they focus mostly on the structure part, basically like infrastructures, but not really much on the human well-being. This is one of the key that we have to be focused more on. And if we're talking about the literacy and the climate response, if we're talking about the elderly who have the flood preparedness and the management, for their experience, they have only 14% that never been flooded before, but about like 86% they've been flooded. And see, this is a big number that we have to be aware of. And if we're talking like, they know that they have flood, and some of them have been using that in their real life or in daily activities. It's not really much, but some of them, they've been aware. And if we're talking about like how online gonna be help in the term of like elderly to be prepared and get information or the thing that related to the flood. They use application to get information basically on the Facebook. They know how to, they have it, but they not really want to use it, but they just get informed. This is the one that we have to be more precise, and we have to be like be educated and be supported in the term of communication, in terms of like to get elderly be more prepared better. Previously, they have a lot of study in the term of like aging population, successful aging. They're looking over only on the health and the functions and the engagement. But this day, we have to think out more on like the climate change and the community that has more impact and very helpful in the term of like getting well-being on the elderly. And this day, the digital literacy had to be added on. If like we know that we're gonna getting old soon, and we need more criteria, or we need more knowledge of the digital literacy to enhancing the capacity of like climate response. And in the business section as well, get people getting old, the electronic device have to be implied and has to be used. And we have to looking forward for not only for the successful aging, but the sustainable aging is the one that we have to looking forward to. And successful aging is not really, how could I say? Successful aging is very important in the terms of like the well-being, but the how successful aging turn to be sustainable aging. This is the thing that we have to be concerned, and because vulnerability, they have like very severe in most of single way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kunjandit. That's very, very much to the point and much to the timing. I appreciate that. And very interesting. I have to say there's a lot of material here. When you have 4 speakers who know so much about their topics, you find yourself overwhelmed with information. And I was taking a lot of notes, and I think I may even lost a page of my notes. I dropped on the floor here. Quite anxious here. It's a very, very informative session, and we had, as a matter of fact, we had almost a dozen questions come in that I know of. There may have been others on Facebook or elsewhere, but we won't have time to go through all of those. But looking at all of these, I think there's one that sort of summed them up perhaps better. And many of these were answered online, so if you've got Zoom, you can take a look and see. The one that I think that would sort of sum everything up together in a way that might be helpful for all of us is, what challenges would you as a panel, each of you can pitch in here and answer this, please. What challenges do you want us to know, as CEOs and business leaders, to know if we're looking to integrate conservation efforts into our own CSR philosophies, into our own CSR strategies? Which of these various issues would you say we should pinpoint? And I'll let anyone answer who'd like to.
So maybe I can start first. I think
Please.
It's quite relevant to my presentation topic today. So first of all, thank you for the question, and I really appreciate the question. Particularly, it's come from CEO or the people from business sector. CSR should not be for the sake of promoting a good image of the company anymore. So CSR should think about the like I mentioned the environmental and social safeguard issues in the CSR projects, or the conservation projects that you are going to run. So you have to keep in mind that all the activities, all the projects that you're going to put in the CSR is not put communities or is not put our environment, to at risk. And all the CSR should provide capacities and also reduce the vulnerabilities of the communities or the people or the stakeholders in that project. So I think I stop here and then we can discuss more. Yeah.
Yes, may I add to appreciate a little bit that actually the CSR now it should be included on the climate change or greenhouse gas emission report as well. So you can see the listed company in the stock market in Thailand and also around the world. They are also report their greenhouse gas emissions and their plan to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions in their organization into their CSR report. So and in the future, I think many companies, they are talking about the ESG report, which stand for, I think, that environmental, social, and community reports. So this kind of more challenge at the moment for the CEO and for the company to be aligned with. So that would be my perspective on this kind of question.
Thank you very much.
Alex, can I just 1 minute wrap up about this question? So yeah, I do agree for both Pichet and Kun Sittisak about the answer for that. But just 1 minute, I would like to put the terms of the CSR and long-term activities should be some kind like a sustainable manner. Maybe some company, they focus some CSR just a short time or in case they have some kinds of the urgent action. But to me, just put long-term responsibility together with CSR should be good for the climate and environment and for our global community. That's it from me so far. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much. Well said. Kun Chandit, do you have anything to offer? No. Okay, good. What I would just like to, again, we've hit our hour and we do have some other questions, but we'll try to cover those in future issues of our newsletter. And as I say, many of them were answered online quite well. But I do like the point that all three close with. The CSR, if you will, any of these responses to the challenges that face us today is not something that you can do Monday morning and Friday morning and Saturday morning. It's something that has to be part of your whole approach to doing business. It has to be a whole part of your whole approach to life. And that's why we've incorporated that into the program here at Sasin so deeply. Kun Chandit, did you want to add something before we leave? You're off, you're muted.
You can go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just making a few closing remarks and you didn't get a chance to say anything. So I wanted you to have a chance.
In which part? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. In terms of what companies should be aware of as priorities, given the threats to the climate and climate change, what companies should be aware of, on a day-to-day basis that they might be able to do.
In my point of view, if the company had to be aware of the climate change, it's like, I just catch up the word that you just said. It's like not a Monday morning or the Friday night. It's the thing that we have to looking for almost every single day. And frankly speaking, sometimes the climate change to me is like the thing that we have to dealing with. Somebody said maybe it's human made or it's already nature, but I think the thing that we have to do is dealing with it, be adaptive in some point.
Yeah, that's very true. And I've actually heard people say, well, it's like gravity, you can't see it, but it's there and you do have to deal with it no matter what. You may not like it, but you still have to deal with it. And that's where we all are today. And I really want to thank all of you. All four of you. This has been a great session. Really got my spine tingling. I'm really excited about this, and I hope other people are as well. Thank you once again, and we'll be in touch again soon, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. Final. My staff is going to get on me right here. We're going to have a questionnaire and evaluation go out to everybody who's watching right now on Facebook and on Zoom. So please answer that so we can make these sessions even better and more relevant to your needs. Thanks again and goodbye. Good evening.
Okay,
Thank
goodbye.
you. Thank you. Good evening. Bye.